So
Yeah.
in a sense, you've left a very dark lifestyle that everybody would say is dark, unless you're totally in it and deceived. And now you're at a point to where it's like you can't abide or tolerate mixing light and dark anymore. And you see
Right.
a lot of Christians doing that. A lot of us Christians can slide into nominalism or gray areas, like you say. And it almost sounds like you've become a prophet now to the church, to say, live for God and let's not play games anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that the prophets experienced, ridicule and mocking and judgment from the church itself, I've experienced.
That's interesting. Well, let's get into the passage. I think this we'll continue in Paul's section, subtitled sexual immorality, in my study Bible. And I think it'll be very interesting to read what Paul says and then to get your take on it, because you've been there and done that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to read verses 12 through 17. And so Paul says, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but I will not be mastered by anything. You say, food for the stomach and the stomach for food, and God will destroy them both. The body, however, is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. By his power, God raised the Lord from the dead, and he will raise us also. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ himself? Shall I then take the members of Christ and unite them with a prostitute? Never. Do you not know that he who unites himself with a prostitute is one with her in body? For it is said, the two will become one flesh. But whoever is united with the Lord is one with him in spirit.
It reminds me a lot of the popular movements in our culture right now, because we're being really sold on this body autonomy and human rights narrative.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And it's true. We do have free will. Everything is permissible. And, not everything's beneficial, though. And there are spiritual and physical consequences to our actions. And it's really, the question is, whose standard are we following? Are we following God's standard, or are we following the world's standards? Both have consequences. Some are good, some are bad. It just depends. We're our God, where we, believe it's all about us, our body autonomy, our human rights, and not realize or not even consider the consequences to those actions.
Yeah, everything exists to serve ourselves, our desires. Unfortunately, consequences aren't listening, and the consequences come. And Dallas Willard likes to say, reality is what we run into when our current perception of reality is faulty or wrong. And so what you're saying is that we can choose to, if we want to make ourselves gods and have everything serve us, eventually that type of thinking brings destruction. Even if we're not religious, it still brings destruction.
Right. Or we create a God that is okay with our actions and behaviors and our sin.
And that God eventually becomes fairly dark, fairly self-absorbing, fairly cruel to other people. And I find it interesting the way you describe the de-evolution of your apartment or your condo. How the things you surrounded yourself eventually began to look like what you actually, they were like the fruit, the art of who you were becoming.
Right.
One of the Greek philosophies eventually became a heresy within the church called Gnosticism. And that whole idea was you can do whatever you want with your body because the only thing that matters is spiritual stuff. And so you can sin or you can treat your body horribly, and none of it touches the reality of just spiritual stuff. But what Paul here is saying is, no, the Lord actually inhabits your physical body. And if Christ is in your physical body, then you can't be joining your body with prostitutes or throwing yourself here and there, because you're bringing Christ to those places. Have you embraced a life of celibacy since you made this change, and how has that been?
Yeah. It's been a struggle. Not at first, at first it was a real struggle, and then it's gradually got less and less of a struggle. Leaving a homosexual lifestyle, I still had desires, and I still would have dreams, and it seemed like the enemy came and attacked me more. I was getting desires that I never liked, that I was never into, really sick and twisted things. And I knew that I was under spiritual attack. And I knew that it happened more as a new Christian, because I was seeking a lot of advice from people on it. And they said, yeah, when you're a new Christian, you're attacked even more, because that's the sweet spot that the devil tries to get you from. And so I was being attacked by a lot of different desires and lusts of things that I was never into. And so, I got to where I was praying for God to help me with my thoughts, help me with my dreams and with those desires in the moment. And there were some days when I, was really struggling with it. Some days I'd have to ask like every 5 minutes all day long. And, I'd have to distract myself with, I watched a lot of sermons and I watched a lot of YouTube videos and different things about the faith to distract myself, because when I was just alone by myself with my thoughts, these, desires would rush in like a flood. And so I noticed that I started getting desires and lusts for women. I was never into it. And I always believed I, was born gay. And so when I had walked away from that lifestyle, I started getting desires for women. And, those grew. And I kind of I didn't rebuke them or anything. I just kind of was like, where's this going? Maybe it's God's will for me to have a wife, or kids.
So it's encouraging on one level because you're having desires that you didn't think were in you, but it's probably also another source of temptation, because you probably could have jumped into sexual sin with women at that point.
Right. And I started seeing the same pattern with men that I saw with women: the lust, the desires, the perversion. And I know God was showing me that everyone has challenges in life, whatever they are. Some struggle with homosexuality, some struggle with gambling, some with addictions, like whatever it is. And he showed me that we have these challenges and these struggles to refine us, to build our character, to keep our eyes on him, and to build our faith that he's our protector, he's our comforter, not anything in this world. And he also showed me the reward aspect of it. People with more struggles and more challenges who overcome are going to be rewarded more in heaven because of it.